Hello there, welcome to episode 2. This one on the X-Files. Do you remember when television was smart? I mean like really smart. I don't just mean like convenience and contrivance smart. I mean intelligent, thoughtful writing that you got excited for when it was going to be coming back on. I don't really remember it much either, but The X-Files definitely qualifies for that kind of writing. Now, to be clear, I'm not doing a full breakdown of the series. We're just going to be looking at the broad strokes and what made this show so fantastic and so loved by so many for so long, even to this day. Despite attempts at revivals and sort of spin-off series would be the wrong word, although I did think originally that Fringe was a spin-off series from this, with a reference, I think it was in the pilot episode, to this department being formerly known as X, being, I think, more now of an homage to the origins of such a show rather than it actually being part of the same universe, which clearly they were not. But before we take a stroll down Memberberry Lane, please like, share, subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon if you really want to stay up to date with all the new releases. Comment down below your thoughts on this episode. And with all that, let's get started. Now, I don't think I can sum up the X-Files in just one word. For those of you out there who have seen it, you know how good this show was and how hard it is to sum it up in a single word. Brilliant certainly comes to mind. This was a show that was very much of its time. It could be made again, I'm not saying it couldn't, not a reboot, absolutely not. It is not beyond the realms of modern writing. Chris Carter, though, made something magical when he made this. Now, he did make a few attempts at spin-off series, like Millennium, and as I understand it, Murder One was also part of the same universe. Millennium is excellent, deserves its own video. Murder One, not so much. But The X-Files was brilliant. The chemistry between the two main leads, sometimes adversarial, opposites attract after all. Now, there was sometimes a little bit of the will they won't they with this show, but it actually deliberately steered clear away from that cringy, irritating storyline trope that they like to do, with actually making both characters deliberately kind of almost asexual, with only occasional allusions to the fact that either one of them ever has a relationship. Both of them are career motivated work people, not always wondering whether the other one thinks they're pretty or thinks they're fat, and they don't waste time on these distracting, unnecessary stories. They focus instead on the characters themselves, the world in which they exist, and really, is Mulder insane, or has he actually got a point? Or will Scully one day actually see that aliens are real and there really is a government conspiracy? The show did jump all over the place, and I'm not going to lie, it did decrease in somewhat of its production value towards the end, but never did it fail to deliver on entertainment, never did it fail to deliver on interesting stories, and also great actors and characters in this show. There are little outings from people who will be famous from other sci-fi franchises, like Amanda Tapping would appear in an episode, but a lot of the series regulars are themselves iconic. And I don't just mean Mulder and Scully, which we'll get to, but obviously. You've got Cancer Man, as he's generally known, a member of the shadowy collective that was possibly evil, possibly good, almost certainly evil, but sometimes you thought maybe out for the greater good. But no, really, they're evil. You have multitudes of other characters. You had, when Mulder's character was gone for a while, we brought in a new character played by the amazing Robert Patrick. You have a slight juxtaposition of characters at that moment, with Scully becoming the believer, but then kind of weirdly going back to how she was when Mulder returns. You have additional characters coming in here and there. The also great Brian Thompson as a recurring villain. And it is just, I would say, if I could actually sum the show up with a single word, because one has just come to mind, it may be perfection. And now, in my humble opinion, perfection doesn't really need to be perfect. In order for something to be absolutely perfect, as certain philosophical beliefs dictate, nothing other than an almighty creator can ever truly be perfect. So from a human point of view, whatever we create, however perfect, will always be imperfect. There has to be an imperfection. The show does have dud episodes. It does have dumb stories every now and again. Some of the characters aren't great, and some of the story beats, particularly towards the later seasons, are not the greatest. However, those imperfections make the show better. Now, that's a hard position for me to defend, but the show manages, despite decreasing somewhat in its quality a little bit, it never decreases its quality in its writing. It never outstays its welcome. You never don't want the show to be on. But when it finally was reaching the point where the writers thought to themselves, maybe we're at the end here, they bowed out gracefully before the show had a chance to become terrible. And after I've said that, of course, you're all thinking it. The revival series. Oh yes, it's not the best. It isn't great. But that is an example of how a show like this, yeah, they can technically make it again now, but they can never make it the same. It'll never be as good, it'll never be as great. And that's not cantankerous whinging, that's literally demonstrated in what they managed to produce. Is it terrible? No. Is it massive rewatch value? Or when you watch the sort of modernized series, does it just make you want to watch the old series? Even the movies, the original X-Files movie was good, very good. And then the second X-Files movie happened, and in case you forgot it existed, and it wasn't good. But again, ups and downs. This show was all about the story and the character of two compelling, interesting, if unusual characters who were in a way diametrically opposed but still aiming for the same goal. It's like they were taking two different paths to take them to the same place, and you always wanted them to see the other one's point of view. You always wanted Scully to see the aliens, but sometimes you wanted Mulder to sit down and really think, well, is it aliens or were the cows just sick? And neither one ever outshined the other. So for a show that never bothered sexualizing its characters, for a show that never put emphasis on one more than the other, and for a show that was made in the 1990s, the show was not only ahead of its time, was groundbreaking, it was provocative, it was interesting, but most importantly, and I mean most importantly, it was entertaining. You had seasons long storylines, and I use seasons plural intentionally because they just kept going. There was never truly going to be an end in sight. Yes, you got the answers to some of the questions, but every time you got an answer, you got 10 more questions. And the reality was, you knew it was never really going to be solved. The truth is out there. I want to believe. But doesn't mean I'm going to find everything. And it was as much about, if not more about, the journey than the destination with the X-Files. And that is one of the things that made it good. It kept you coming back, it kept you entertained. And that, as I've said before, is the whole point of entertainment. It is to take you out of your reality, put you into another one, which is different, but safe. You get to see the world through the lens of someone you could never be, and possibly would never want to be, but you can pretend for a little bit. These characters encapsulate some of the greatest storytelling, some of the greatest characters in television, and for that matter, movies, because they did make those too, in the last 30 years, if not ever. The X-Files will go down in television history as one of the most groundbreaking and genre-defining shows ever produced, and it rightfully deserves that place. maybe one day someone will make something as good, if not better, and I hope to God they do. I really do. And a lot of good shows have been made since. This wasn't like it was the only show ever made that was good. But by God, was it good by comparison to some of its actual industry rivals. Shows like Dark Skies, which were in a similar vein. Fringe, which was again, as I mentioned earlier, in a similar vein. Neither one was ever truly as good. You had shows like The Visitor that also tried to use this sort of hyperbolic sci-fi genre and didn't work. That only lasted for 13 episodes, which is sad because actually The Visitor was really good. But The X-Files, multiple seasons, hundreds of interesting characters, but actually managed to make just a few stories last and be interesting, with obviously little dangerous side quests as you have. So that is The X-Files. As I said, I'm not reviewing the show season by season, episode by episode, character by character. I just want to share. This is how you make a show. You want to entertain people when you make something, and when they made this, they made it entertaining. And that is the goal, that is the point, that is the requirement, the singular requirement for the entertainment industry, to entertain. And this show certainly did, and still does, for those of you who still watch it, have it on DVD, Blu-ray, or just simply stream it on whatever platform you use, or by the time you're watching this video, and I don't know when, whatever other media avenue there is to see this. It's a great show. If you've not seen it in a while, go back and rewatch it. Remember the magic. And thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon if you've enjoyed this video, and share your thoughts. What's your favourite characters from the X-Files? Don't give me Mulder and Scully. Everyone loves Mulder and Scully. No one likes one more than the other. If you like one more than the other, you missed the point of the show. Everyone loves them. Tell me a character you love from the background. Cancer Man, one of the other various informants. Hell, Scully's dad, played by the late, great Don S. Davis. Another Stargate alumni there. Fantastic actor, wonderful human being. Before I go off on a tangent and go completely into another universe of talking, we're at the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and bye bye. Throwing this on at the end after I'd already recorded all of this, one very quick shout out to two shows spun off from this that deserve their own episodes, as I've said, but I wanted to just quickly touch on them. We've got Millennium and The Lone Gunman. Two shows, particularly The Lone Gunman, massively underrated, absolutely fantastic shows. Well worth a watch. In addition to the X-Files, if you want to get the full X-Files experience, you've got to include The Lone Gunman and Millennium, because those two shows stand alone on their own as different aspects of the X-Files universe, but without going into too much detail about them here, they are fantastic, they're great. To get the full X-Files experience, as I said, you got to watch all three. And with that said, that truly is the end of this video. I'd just like to say a thank you to everyone for watching that video. I hope you enjoyed it. I really enjoy making these. If you did enjoy it, please consider giving a like, share, and a subscribe, and maybe checking out the other videos on the screen right now, and in the description box below there are links to my other social media accounts.